Over the summer, Disney announced that we were going to get 2 remasters of 2 classic games from the 16-bit era, the Aladdin game and the Lion King game. Now, this is something I've been anticipating for a while, and the day has finally come in Australia. So I'm pretending I'm an Aussie, mate. And today I downloaded the Aladdin and Lion King Disney Classics for the Nintendo Switch. So we're going to see how they run, how they stack side by side with their original versions, and if it's worth getting. So stick around, drop a like, get subscribed, turn on that notification, and of course, grab a cold one and let's party. Now, as a kid, one of my favorite games I played a lot of was the Lion King game. Now, this was a game I owned as a kid, and unfortunately, it's one of the very few games that got lost in the move. Thank you, Mom and Dad. Alright, well anyway. So, originally when the Sega Genesis Mini was announced, there was a collection of games on there that was announced that people were thinking, okay, this is going to be a big thing in the future, because World of Illusion and Castle of Illusion featuring Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck were announced for the Sega Genesis Mini. And I believe that was in the first wave. So at that time, people thought, hey, maybe Aladdin will join the ranks, or maybe Lion King will join the ranks. And at the time, this Disney Classics collection was not announced. However, this is probably why this was not added onto the Sega Genesis Mini, because they didn't want that to be cannibalized into that. So this is their opportunity to resell it to you, and we're gonna find out if it's worth your money. And we're gonna go ahead and take a look at it now. And just as a forewarning, Lion King was my game as a kid, and I rented Aladdin, but I didn't play it all that much because I didn't own it. So if I'm bad at Aladdin, I am sorry. But Lion King is where I grew up, and that second level, that's a good party trick if you know how to beat it. So let's jump over to the Switch and find out how it looks. Alright, so as we're taking a look at the main menu, you're immediately greeted by the Aladdin side of things, and you get 3 options here. You get Play Games, Museum, and Soundtrack. And we're not playing any tunes here because, you know, copyright strikes, Disney, blah, blah, blah. But you can take a look here and you kind of just play this as if it were a jukebox. You can shuffle the songs, you can repeat a song, of course you can play it. This is the original game versions, not the actual versions you would hear in the movies. Take a look at the museum. Of course, you got 3 sections here: game videos, game art, movie art. Take a look at these. You can kind of look at the making of the game, which is a really cool section here. And of course, they're just general things that are just included that aren't obviously included in the original game that came out. So you can look at concept art as well as art from the movie itself. So a very nice addition that they went ahead and did here. So let's jump into the actual game side of things. So here you can look at the Console S version, which would stand for Sega. You got the Final Cut version included, the demo version, and you get the Japanese version. And of course, as promised, you will get the handheld versions as you take a look here now. You got the original Game Boy and you got the Game Boy Color Enhanced version here. We'll go over those in handheld mode. Spoiler alert, it won't be fun. Take a look at the Lion King side of things. Pretty much the exact same thing with the Lion King skin added to it. In the background though, you get to see actual movie art from the, well, movie itself. Game videos here. This is far more than the Aladdin version, probably because they include game art. So nice to include a little extra there. And then the movie art, pretty much the exact same thing as the Aladdin side of things. Take a look at the Lion King. Now, I grew up with the Sega Genesis version, but the Super Nintendo version was the better praised one. So you get the SNES version, the Genesis version, as well as the Japanese version and the 2 handheld versions. But we are going to go ahead and start playing a little bit of Aladdin here. Now, as I mentioned, I never owned this game as a kid, and you know, between these 2 games, typically it's the Aladdin version that is better received amongst the community. But I grew up playing Lion King, so Aladdin I rented as a kid, but here we are. Just take a look at the option menu. You get sharp screen, full screen. I'm more of a full screen person. Stretch screen, you should not be playing these games if you want to pull that crap on us. Now take a look at here. You can get the filters. You can play with the clean filter. You can play with the TV filter, a monitor filter, and LCD filter. We'll just keep it off, keep it nice and clean. And the border, you just take that off. I mean, you just play it as intended, just an HDMI version. As you take a look here, you can map the controls in any way you desire. You can make your jump button, your down button, etc. Take a look at the options here. You get to save your state, which is probably a very crucial thing, especially in Lion King, considering how hard it is. And if you forget to save upon quitting the game, you have the option right there. So take a look at the gameplay here. gameplay just seems nice and fluid, and this is awesome. I mean, the original Aladdin version had no problems with that I ever encountered, even in my recent playthrough. Just, you know, seeing how the originals played, this just looks nice. It's a smooth frame rate, everything looks good. You know, climbing up the ropes, swing your sword, throwing apples, jumping, platforming, everything just performs as it should as a platformer. And this game could be kind of tricky just with the amount of enemies you're facing here with the swinging swords. I mean, just on the first level alone, I mean, compared to the Lion King level 1, this one might be a tad harder in terms of how many enemies are throwing projectiles, how many are swinging swords at you, how many are moving just in different directions. Of course, you get the additional way to hit people with the sword and the apples. As compared to Lion King, you're just pretty much jumping on people. It's just kind of essentially a Mario clone with, you know, Lion King skin attached to it. You continue to see gameplay, and I would love to include the sound, but when it comes to the music itself, I don't want to take that risk and get this claim. So unfortunately, no sound attached, but maybe we'll do a stream so you can kind of get the idea of what it sounds like. I can tell you right now, it sounds good. The Super Nintendo version is going to be your better sounding here, as you kind of see the rewind method in action, which I kind of missed telling you about, that there is a rewind method here that you can kind of, you know, if you cheat, whatever, it's fine. I won't tell anybody, but you can rewind if you die. And, you know, I'm kind of just showing you that ability here. So to show you that it is possible to rewind the game if you want to go ahead and do that. Of course, saving states is kind of the same realm, but I'll be honest, I needed it to beat the Lion King as an adult, which happened only, I don't know, 2 years ago. So that's first level. Look at the bonus game here. You get to additionally add to your currency. You can get some free lives, and of course, you can lose. Now, to keep spinning, you have to collect those genie icons. And then there's also a bonus Abu level if you collect his icon as well. Take a look here as Abu is just trying to collect the currency jewels here, but you got to avoid the falling pots, which this is far harder than the Lion King version of this in terms of there's really no speed here, and of course I use the rewind feature again here. It's tough, and I'm pretty sure you can swing the sword to kind of combat this to make it just a little easier, but I'll admit it is on the tougher side. It starts. Well, this is Lion King. We're playing the Super Nintendo version here, and I gotta tell you immediately, as compared to the original versions from the Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo, and I tested this earlier, so I played the actual Sega Genesis version, included it in this collection. This plays far better than the game that came out back in the 90s in terms of how quick it reacts. It plays like a platformer should, and as I mentioned, it artificially inflated the difficulty because of it. So seeing that fix and seeing that this is not just a simple remaster in terms of just, you know, making an HDMI capable video game, this was very welcome for me personally, because this was a big part of my childhood in terms of what I played as a kid. And to see that the game had its biggest problem fixed for me was very, very welcoming. I would love to show the clip, or I'm showing it right now, but I can't play the audio of it, you know, just for reasons. And as I mentioned earlier about the Abu special game, this one is just, I think, more funner. It's the funnest of the two. It's challenging. Of course, in the middle of this, you can burp with Pumbaa and make that a little easier and keep the bugs floating in the air. But here we are with the handheld versions as promised. These are not good, and personally I think these are on here simply to justify the cost of $30, to say, hey, we got these extra versions. Every other, you know, collection includes multiple versions of the game, so we got to do the same thing here. And I'll give them credit. Back in the day, they did pretty much try to make this like a shot-for-shot remake of the games themselves. I mean, as you can see in the Lion King one to start off here, it pretty much looks exactly like what you just saw me play, but in the same realm, it plays terribly. It doesn't control well, and the Aladdin one's even worse. So as you're looking here, this is pretty floaty, as you can see here. And like I said, kudos to them for trying to make this shot for shot. Even the background looks pretty good. I mean, it looks good. It performs like crap. And this isn't even the worst part. And of course, you see this terrible lag that you're watching here. And Don't worry, it gets worse. Aladdin looks like he floats with his pants, and I really don't have much to say in terms of how awful this plays. And like I said, I really think these were just included for the fact that it would, I guess, fluff out the price a little bit. And well, but I do have some good news. Handheld mode works great in the actual games that you're buying this for. This is Lion King in handheld mode, and it just plays wonderfully. Plays exactly like it would docked, and for that, I thank everyone involved in making this project happen. And we're going to be going back to live action Brian right now. Now here we are at the moment of truth. Is this collection worth your $30? And the answer to that is, yeah, I guess. When I say that, if you grew up loving these games, I say day one purchase for sure. Here's the good thing about it. You are finally able to play this on modern console legally and far easier than maybe other methods that I'm not going to mention here. But you can HDMI out this thing finally and play these classic 16-bit games on your HD television. The best part about this, which I already mentioned while going through the Lion King aspect of it, the game responds so much better than the original game. So this wasn't just a simple, let's just put it on a cartridge and just send it out there. I mean, obviously they had to do something to it. They had to rework it a little bit to call it a remaster. So the game originally came out and it was very hard to really play because a platformer needs to be precise. When it comes to games that need quick responses, you got sports games, fighting games, and platformers without a doubt. And the Lion King was really hard, almost artificially, due to this. So the fact that the remaster seems to have corrected that problem just from what I've played so far, this could make this game a little easier than it used to be. So that alone is awesome. But if you didn't grow up playing these games, this might be asking just a little too much because these games aren't really that long in length, and they're asking you to pay $30 for 2 old games. And I know this is a week of, some big launches. Luigi's Mansion 3 is coming out. Just today alone, we have Resident Evil 5 and 6 coming out for the Switch. And of course, Super Monkey Ball Blitz HD coming out for the Switch. So the 29th is a very busy day. And it's just going to be a very busy week, of course, with Luigi's Mansion 3, which is probably going to have most people's attention. Not to mention Outer Worlds and Call of Duty have taken everyone else's attention beforehand. But $30 is probably too much for this collection in my opinion, especially when there's other collections out there like the Contra collection, the Castlevania collection that released at a lower price point and you got much more content. This is too high of a price, to be honest. I think a $20 launch point would have been good. Of course, probably got the Disney tax in there somewhere, but I would wait maybe for $20 unless you grew up loving these games. They're good games, of course, but I don't know if $30 is what you should be spending on. But those are my thoughts. What are your thoughts? Did this collection does it look like something you are interested in? Is it something you played as a kid? Is it something you are thinking about buying, but you want to wait for that sale price, or you're just not interested at all? And also, what other 16-bit games would you like to see remastered? Would you like to see the Illusion games come over in maybe a Switch port or a PS4 port, an Xbox port, instead of just the Genesis collection? Let me know your thoughts below. Don't forget to drop a like, of course, share this video with a friend, get subscribed, and as always, thank you and party on.